John, you want to mute for a second, please?
Yeah.
Okay, so I appreciate everyone for coming here today. Obviously, this is an event this is actually our fifth event that we're hosting. So I'm going to introduce each of our panel members here. So first off, we have Gina Riley. Gina brings expertise in HR, executive search, and interview skills to her career transition coaching. She was named a 2024 LinkedIn Top Voice. She is a Forbes Coaches Council contributor and certified UMAP coach. Gina is preparing to publish her book Career Velocity in Q1 2025 with Advantage Forbes Books, detailing her unique coaching model. So thanks so much, Gina, for joining us. We appreciate that. Gina's the one waving there. Awesome. Next up, we have Melissa Grabiner with nearly 3 decades of experience in both human resources and recruiting. Melissa is a sought-after strategist and expert in talent acquisition. On LinkedIn, Melissa is considered a thought leader, having over 350,000 followers. That's awesome. She has been interviewed by the Wall Street Journal, LinkedIn, MarketWatch, Fast Company, Indeed Business, and has been featured twice on the Times Square billboard in New York City. Additionally, Melissa has been ranked as the #2 female LinkedIn creator worldwide and is recognized by LinkedIn's influencer program as top voice for both recruiting and job seeking strategies. So everyone, please welcome Melissa, and we appreciate you being here as well.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And last but not least, we have Franklin Buchanan, and he is a certified professional career coach, resume writer, and corporate facilitator with more than 15 years of experience in talent acquisition. Franklin is recognized as a top voice on LinkedIn for resume writing and outplacement and is a member of the Forbes Coaches Council. So typically how we do these events, we have each of the speakers go through 15 to 20 minutes. They're going to either share their screen, have a presentation, give you an idea, and be a resource for you in the type of topics that we're talking about today. So first we have up is Gina, and she'll be talking about executive presence in your job search. So Gina, take it away. And
Awesome.
just for any other reference, if you do have questions for Gina, Franklin, or Melissa, please leave them to the end, and we can go through that process as we have those questions come up. So thanks very much, everyone, and yeah, enjoy. We appreciate everyone for joining.
Good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's joining us, and thank you for the awesome introduction. I'm super excited to be on here with Melissa and with Franklin as well. I have about 20-ish slides, but I'm going to be just talking through them rapidly. I think it's more fun to listen and see some cool graphics versus just listening to people drone on. So part of breaking barriers for me, what I'm bringing to the party today is how to help up-level your game with interview presence or just your leadership presence, executive presence. So that'll be the topic. And I would love, I have a couple of questions that I'll ask, and if you want to throw answers in the chat, John's monitoring that, and hopefully someone can jump in and tell me what the questions are because I've got the presentation maximized on my screen. So I'm going to talk about the importance of soft or your power skills. The soft skills are the hard skills in landing that job offer. So I'll go a little deeper on that. What is executive presence? What's some of the new research out there? Why do you need to know it? I'll give you some ideas about what slows down your interviewing success. We'll talk about interview deal breakers and barriers, and then some success strategies. So the first thing that I would have you know is the soft skills or your power skills are the hardest skills to really convey. The things that get you to the table to be interviewing with executive search consultants like John and his team, the table stakes is the technical and functional skills. That's what we see on your resume. Those are those minimum qualifiers that makes a recruiter call you in the first place. So now you have a seat at the interview table. Executive presence plays a 26 in engendering the kind of trust and confidence in you that is needed to get that job offer. So what is executive presence? For those of you who are have your fingers near the keyboard, some might be eating because it could be lunch hour. throw that in the chat. What are the things that you think define executive presence? And we know that this research that I'm pulling from, based on Sylvia Ann Hewlett's work, the studies that she did that went into this book were based on an American, Northern American sort of perspective. That's the case. So it may not translate across the whole world or across other cultures. John or anyone else, is there something in the chat where people have thrown in what they think executive presence is? Or people might be just taking a little break, listening to me. Okay, we'll keep going. We might not like to think that we get judged on our executive presence, but the reality is we all are human. We all make judgments. We all have bias. And so you are getting judged on how you show up. So it's important to understand what EP is so that you can achieve your goals faster. And then we'll discuss ways that you can express executive presence authentically. There's some new research that came out January 2024 that I actually took to a conference and spoke about in Lisbon earlier this year. So there's some dimensions of executive presence. There's appearance. Now, we're going to go deeper on what this can mean for you. Again, I've got it right here as my wing woman all the time. So why do you need executive presence? You need it to eliminate doubt about to get the offer based on the way that you behave and so a few other reasons why we need it. It impacts how you're subconsciously will be responding to you. So you need to build this awareness because you need to recognize that you have blind spots and you need help shining a light on that, especially if you've interviewed and you come in number 2 and you're wondering what's going on. It could be about these behaviors. And I've seen lots and you get feedback on them, then you can change the way that you're behaving. You can change the narrative and adapt it in a way. So if your fingers are on the keyboard, which of these aspects of executive presence do you think are the most important? Is it appearance, how you look, communication, how you speak, or gravitas, how you act? Anybody have some guesses? Can't see the chat at the same time. See if I can pull it up. Anybody? Folks. So the most important aspect, according to the research, I'm going to go deeper on that in the subsequent slides. The first hurdle you have, however, is your appearance, because we make got for that very first impression, and then people are starting to categorize and think about. And then your communication and gravitas really need to come to the forefront. So some of our expectations about leaders have changed. I mentioned that the HBR, Harvard Business Review, and there have been some shifts in the data. So from 2012 to 2022, your appearance, based on the old and the judged by the people that participated in this research. That doesn't mean that you have to show up to interviews on Zoom or in person in a 3-piece suit. It means that you look like you're put together. Now, what I think is very fascinating about this research is the new research says authenticity and a curation of an online image are I think that's especially encouraging for women and people of color who can now start showing up more as their authentic selves rather than trying to push that aside. The second part of it's superior, crisp speaking skills, the ability to connect through your communication. Now, is command of the room and the Zoom room. So that means, one, that you can command the room and read the room and have people following you. And it also means that you can do that online. That's equally important today. And then a listen to learn orientation. Are you a good listener, and are you taking action based on what you learn? The third elements of executive presence, meaning gravitas, above everything else, all of the things in this list, confidence and decisiveness are extremely important. The interview executive level candidates, we're looking for people who have conviction and confidence to make a decision when others are shy away from making those decisions. And even if you make mistakes, it's also showing up with humility, explaining your decisions, and then explaining your key learnings when you've had missteps. So also with gravitas, meaning how you behave, it's also about inclusivity and respect for others. All of these traits are things that we can infuse into our interview. Hewlett, you don't need to be an expert or have executive presence checking off in every single category. It's really about having a few that help you show up as your best self so that you can confidently win people over and win the offer. So with increased executive presence awareness, you can improve your interview. That you could be using that make things stronger. There's the that all play a factor in whether or not you're going to have a barrier to getting the offer or not. So a few deal from strategies that you can consider. So I'm not going to read all this word for word. What I'm going to do, and you want to have a great, background. You want to look professional. You want it to be neutral. You want it to be non-distracting and to reduce your noise distractions. A lot of your interviews are going to initially be on Zoom or Teams, something online, hopefully in person, if you're one of the top conducted CEO searches where I've had the executives show up with just their forehead and their eyeballs in the screen. That's no bueno. And then also I've had people with their backs to the window with only the backlighting and no light on their face. So I can't see them for the entire interview. So there's these little nuances that are huge barriers when someone's trying to assess you. You're underdressed, you want to frame yourself in the shot, you want to be making eye contact. I think a lot of us have gotten better and better when you're interviewing. For communication strategies, you want to make sure they'll do an uptick when they're decreases their credibility. So it's talking and speaking with that decisiveness and that confident tone, and especially with the communication, reading the room and paying attention to how people are reacting to what you're saying. Now with gravitas, what you want to do like that, super distracting for the people who attention to those recruiter cues and the hiring managers and the people who are on the interviewing teams. And you want to make sure that you're infusing some of these aspects of EP, executive presence, into your storytelling examples. That's just one example. So how do you apply this and as your strategic different? You do what you do when you use your powerful soft skills. What happens when you do what you do, right? So that is all I have for you today. If you have any questions, please throw it in the chat. I want to make sure that I leave enough time for the other two people that have prepared some content. Executive presence is hugely important when it comes to breaking through those barriers and what your behaviors are and how you lead.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Gina. I appreciate that. That's great. For Gina, and then we can circle back at the end of the call as well. Any questions for Gina?
Arrows I have from the survey
Arrows. Yeah.
Thanks.
in the chat.
Okay. Awesome.
Question, folks, throw it in the chat. I'll be paying attention. Okay.
Yeah. And we'll have some time to we can keep this moving along if there aren't any other questions. But again, take it away.
I'm going to speak about our tips. A lot of people don't do, but is incredibly important, is to clarify on a job. Think about the industries you want to work in, what your role would be, what your responsibility. Job seekers, they go into a search, but they don't necessarily clarify what their goals are for their next position. So I think if a job seeker had this clarity, it would really help with their search. Updating a resume is really important. And a lot of people, what they do, the job posting that they see. What's important, I believe, and I coach my job seekers on this as well, is to tailor your resume for each job application, because the more tailored your resume is, that shows that you have the duties and responsibilities as it relates to the job description, the better the chance is that you will be contacted by a recruiter or a hiring manager. It does take a little bit of time to do this, but it is absolutely worth it. And I don't mean that you have to take every bullet point from your resume, or I'm sorry, from the job description and put it in your resume, but maybe take the top bullets within a JD, a job description, and try to somehow incorporate that into your resume. Additionally, I highly suggest that within your resume, you highlight relevant skills, relevant experiences, and any achievements that match the job description. The third bucket here I want to talk about is networking, which I think is so incredibly important. Leveraging professional networks like LinkedIn, for example, going to industry events, even reaching out to any of your personal uncover hidden job opportunities. I actually found one of my former jobs through my network. I worked at a company for 18 years, and when they moved my position to the East Coast, I ended up leaving the company. I literally took out a piece of paper, wrote down a list of all my friends, all my former colleagues, and then I had my husband do the same thing. And I reached out to every single person, letting them know that I was looking for a new opportunity and what that job was that I wanted was, which was in talent acquisition. And I think a very important distinction with networking that a lot of people don't get right is networking isn't about what other people can do for you. It's also about what you can do for other people as well. So networking to me is a very strong two-way street. And plus it feels good to help others. And I think most people generally want to help, especially people that are looking for a new job. But again, networking is so important when you're looking for a job. There are so many people that I personally know that have found their jobs through their network. I found my current job by sending a note directly to the CEO of my company. As I thought through what are some target companies that I would really love to work at. And so what I did was I went on LinkedIn and I did some searches. And depending on the size of the company, I either reached out to a recruiter or directly to the CEO. And in this particular situation, I knew it would be a long shot because not everyone is active on LinkedIn. But I thought, you know what, if I don't do this and if I don't try, I'm never going to know. And what happened was this conversations, and within 2 weeks, I had a job offer in hand, and I've been at this company for 3 years. Posting. I had no idea if this company was even hiring, but what happened was when I reached out to the CEO here, let me think through like our budget and see if there's something that we really lovely fit for what we're looking for. We're going to go ahead and make you an offer for everyone, but it worked for me. And so that's why I wanted to share it, because if I didn't reach out directly to the CEO, few other additional tips to help with your job search is, again, and I'll go back to what I just said, is the importance of researching companies. So identify companies you're interested in, try to learn about their culture, their values, read any recent news. You can find all of this information by either going on the company website or going to the LinkedIn page for the organization. A lot of companies have posts about their recent news. They talk about their culture and their values. What this does is it helps in customizing your applications and gives you a much more targeted approach. And again, LinkedIn is a wonderful resource to research organizations. I think a lot of people, what they do when they're searching for jobs is they utilize job search engines. So of course, LinkedIn, Indeed's a big one, Glassdoor, for example. What you can do is you can set up job alerts. I know in LinkedIn you can do this to stay updated on any new postings that are a fit for what you're looking for. And there are also a lot of job search sites related specific to a function like marketing or IT or HR. Myself working in human resources, there's an organization called the Society of HR Management. And this organization has a dedicated job board, as do all of the local chapters, and this is all online. So depending, again, what your focus is in terms of what kind of job you're looking for, there are a lot of job search engines that have job boards specifically for those particular functions. And I also think it's really important too, when you get to the interview stage, to prepare. I can't tell you, I've interviewed well over, oh God, thousands of people throughout the years, truly. And there have been so many times where I would interview a candidate and they would have really idea what we did as a company. They weren't prepared. They didn't come with asking good questions. So it's really, really important. Again, are asked to interview much information simply by looking at a company's website, and always be asked questions. Two-way street. It's not simply a company interviewing you and making a decision. It's you interviewing the company and you making a decision. So be prepared, really research the role, research the culture, research the company, and always ask questions during an interview. The other thing that really helped me in my job search was staying organized. So what I did was I created an Excel spreadsheet, which I tracked all of the applications I submitted, the interviews I had, and any dates of follow-up. So it's so easy, I think, when you're in a job search, you have so much going on. Organized truly was the key and helped new position. And the one thing I would also say too is to try to stay positive and persistent. I have been laid off. I felt like, especially after I was with 18 years, when I was laid off, I felt like my world to stay positive. I understand that job hunting can be very challenging and crucial. And understand too that every rejection you get is one step closer to finding the right opportunity. In a job search, everybody faces rejections, everybody. Understand too that all you need is that one yes. Every day is a new day with new possibilities. Just keep going and keep at it. And then also to close this particular topic out, every job search is unique, and it's important to tailor your particular approach based on your strengths in the industry. To talk about today is how you overcome ageism when looking for a job. The truth based on age, especially I know by the age of 40, and I fall within that bucket. So I understand anyone who feels that they're experiencing ageism. I certainly have been there before and understand how it feels. I think that there are certain things that you can do to try to overcome or combat that ageism. The first is, and I talk about this a lot when I coach job seekers, is that there are some people who I coach that have been working for 35 years. And what they do on their resume is they go back 35 years. I recommend not doing that. I would say don't go back more than 20 years of experience tops. Also, because not only will that perhaps, tell your age, but a lot of what you did that far back isn't necessarily going to be relevant today. Technologies change. There's so much that changes within the working world that any experience you had prior to 20 years ago truly isn't most likely going to be relevant. So I would use 20, maybe 15, but no more than that. The other thing I would make sure to do is if you did go to college and you have a degree, don't indicate the date of the year that you graduated. It doesn't matter when you graduated. What matters is that you have that degree. So absolutely remove any sort of date of graduation from your resume. It's simply not relevant. The other thing I would say is try to stay current with technology and trends. I mean, I think we all know that technology is changing at a rapid speed. Try to demonstrate your proficiency with any modern software, any modern tools, industry trends. Take courses to update your skills if you think that's necessary. And I know I talked about this before, but it's really important to tailor your resume and your LinkedIn profile to showcase your most recent and relevant experience. When I speak with job seekers, what I always tell them is it's super important to have an optimized LinkedIn profile. I could tell you myself, as someone who's been recruiting for many years, when I'm thinking about talking to a candidate, I'm always looking on their LinkedIn profile. And it's important to have that optimized, have all your experience relevant, perhaps use keywords from job descriptions within your profile to align with what employers are asking for. And truly, I cannot stress enough how important this is. And we talked a little bit prior about networking. I think networking is also about networking strategically. Try to leverage your professional network, your personal network, attend industry events, try to make new connections, biases, as well as get referrals. And I will also say too, is it's important for anyone looking for a job, but I think especially for people who fear ageism, is try to show adaptability and your openness to learning. So if you have an interview, talk about your willingness to learn, talk about your ability to catch on to things quickly, perhaps even showcase instances where you've successfully adapted to change or learn new skills. I wouldn't bring up your age. I wouldn't call attention to it. And I truly hope that no recruiter or hiring manager will ever bring this up either. Another thing I want to mention is, and I say this to people, no matter really where they are in their career, who are looking for jobs, is consider freelance or consulting opportunities. When I was laid off from my last position, I started a small business, and I decided, because I had so much experience in recruiting, I was going to start a business helping job seekers with their resumes, LinkedIn profile optimization, LinkedIn branding, interview skills. This was a way for me to not only earn income while I was looking for a new opportunity, but it was a way for me to help others and doing something that I love. And it kept my skills current. And so I had on my resume, not that I wasn't working during a specific period of time, but I was actually freelancing and consulting. So anyone who is looking for a new opportunity, if you have any particular skills that you feel other people can learn from, I highly recommend considering freelancing or even consulting opportunities. And then the last thing I'll say about this is, and I talked about this a couple minutes ago, but it's really important to bring up again. I understand how searching for a job could be very, very stressful. Have confidence in your abilities. Try to keep a positive attitude. It really can go such a long way. When you speak with employers, showcase your enthusiasm for the role and your commitment to contributing positively to the organization. And there's nothing wrong with seeking advocacy and support. You know, when I was looking for a job, I reached out to my family for support, my friends for support. I knew this time wasn't going to last forever, but having support and realizing that it's okay to ask for support, realizing for me, like my mental health was really suffering for a while there. And I admitted that and I sought support for that. So there's nothing wrong with seeking support. Always be your best cheerleader and never forget that you just need that one yes. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Melissa. I appreciate that. As an executive search firm, trust me when I say this, Melissa nailed a few really key important parts there and points. So I appreciate that insight. Is there
Yeah.
any comments or questions for Melissa? Let me just check the chat here very briefly.
And then if anyone also has any questions after this call, they can always reach out to me on LinkedIn as well.
Okay, yeah, we do have a question from, question from Chris. Do you have, we got a couple here that just come in. Um, do you have some suggestions for job search strategy for working overseas that would be necessarily outside of the US?
You know, I appreciate the question. This is not, I'm so sorry. This is not my area of expertise. I'm sorry. I only focus in on the US.
Yeah, and that might have been actually a question that was kind of asked to everyone. So, okay, I appreciate that. Any other questions for Melissa before we let Franklin jump in here as he's eagerly waiting? Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And we'll have a lot of opportunity, like I said, if you do have some questions that come up, uh, obviously. Oh, yeah, Franklin, take it away. I don't think there's any questions here. So by all means, looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Absolutely. Thank you all very much. I'm going to talk to y'all today. Melissa touched on a lot of this, so I'm going to piggyback on some of that. And breaking barriers by networking in your job search. When I think about launching a job search in 2024, gosh, we're halfway through it, more than halfway through it. To me, there's two elements, and you've already heard them, about that set you up for success when done right to secure your next position when you're starting. There's that online element of your job search, the resume piece. You heard Melissa talk about the importance of tailoring your resume, the utilization of LinkedIn, reaching out to hiring managers and decision makers. And then there's networking. And the term but utilizing your network strategically, when done right, will. So again, my name is Franklin Buchanan. I'm the owner of Post Up Careers. I spent 15 years working in recruiting. I touched all sides of business, recruiting, sales, marketing, and training. And because of that, I would always do this kind of thing on the side. 24. And do this full time. May the 4th was with me. Because career coaching means 1,000 different things to 1,000 different people: resume writing, LinkedIn profile development, interview preparation, salary negotiation, and job search networking coaching. And that's what I want to talk about today. So we'll define what networking is, what you're doing wrong, or what most people get wrong in the utilization of their network. When networking with your contacts. And of course, I'll have time for Q&A at the end. But if you want to, feel free to ask questions as we go. I'll take a peek at the chat every so often and see what we come up with. So speaking of the chat, networking is. Trying to find my chat now that I've shared my screen. Here it is. It's on my other screen. Building professional connections, Mark. Relationship building, connecting. According to the Oxford Dictionary, networking is the action or process of interacting with social contacts. You need the ABC. Always be connecting. I like that. Little Glengarry, Glen Ross. Connecting with people who are in your similar field of work. All nail, meet head, hammer, meet nail, whatever the terminology of the phrase is. Networking means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. For the purposes of our conversation today, I'm going to tell you what I'm not talking about networking. I do think the term networking but I think it can have an intimidating connotation to it in 2024. It's easy applying to jobs online. That's easy. Conducting outreach about a job search can be difficult. Nothing raises my stress level more than going to a Chamber of Commerce meeting. Yep, I'll let y'all make that decision at the end of this conversation. But I genuinely hate doing that. I don't like about. That being said, as you heard Melissa talk about earlier, there is value there. Every time I go to a SHRM meeting, a Chamber of Commerce event, something at the local university, I leave those events with some value, whether it but for the purposes of the conversation I want to have with y'all today, that's not what I'm talking about. That I coach my clients on, and for the rest of this call, is the utilization of your network. So here's a few errors that many people make when it comes to networking. Number one, a couple people have talked about in the chat. Melissa touched on this a little bit, but not really think when reaching out in our job search, and then just spraying and praying resumes. One of the worst things that you can do when you're 50 different, no matter how well you know them, don't just blind send your resume to somebody and let them know you're not having clear net. If you're, let's just say if you're a director of sales, what sales? You have to have that set up, but you need some sort of idea as you are interfacing with your network, not having a clear ask. I see so many people in 2024 utilizing their network in their job search in a very transactional manner. And here's how those conversations typically look. Pick up the phone. I call John. John, hey, I'm looking for my next role. Maybe I do have a clear path. Maybe I do want to go and be a your next step is. If I tell him I want to be a VP of sales, John probably then is going to say, great, send me your resume. resume. John happens on this call happens to be a partner at an executive search firm. So John might have an idea of doing supervisor might. He may not have an idea what to do with that resume. In case by happenstance, something comes across his desk. Even people that know you and would bend over backwards to help you don't know how to help you unless you have a very clearly defined spoiler alert, be strategic. You heard Melissa talk about it. You're probably, if you're on LinkedIn and reading any of our posts, me, Melissa, Gina, there's a million of us out there. You're going to hear us talk about being strategic in your job search. The first is starting with the right contacts. In my practice, I start need to know what you do professionally. I have a friend. His name is together. We hang out together. We are friends. I don't have the slightest clue what Jason does as a financial advisor. I mean, I have an idea because I'm familiar with what financial advisors do, but outside of being a career coach, if he was to call me and ask for help about financial advisor things, that's not in my wheelhouse. So the people that you're identifying, your contact list, they need to know the next thing that you want to ask yourself is, what do I want to get out of a networking conversation? Duh, or I would like an interview. And I can tell you, even if this is actually reached out to the president of the company, and it just so happened that president had an opening on his team and she's interviewing for it on Friday. But that doesn't happen all that often. Get out of your networking conversations outside of a job, or are we framing our ask to get whatever that is out of that I utilize a lot in my practice. So first, when performing that outreach and reaching out to your contacts, the first thing that you'd like to get out of the conversation is feedback. And that person's experience with you professionally, whether it's a former supervisor, a colleague, hey, John, as I'm seeking my next, the next little bit of the conversation, I'd love to get your feedback based on your experience working with me, and now we're giving our network something that they can do something with. The reality is people love to give advice. Gina, Melissa, and I wouldn't be in this business if we didn't love giving advice. I want to give you advice and I want to give you feedback. And so that's a great starting place with setting up some of these conversations. What it does, number one, it does give you that feedback, which might open up different skill sets that you haven't thought about. But what it also does during the course of the conversation, whether you're having coffee, lunch, a beer, a Zoom, is it gets them thinking about your skills. And now they're thinking about what you're good at. And so one of the second things that I help coach my clients to try to get out of a networking conversation is another conversation. Work your network's network. If you can open your network's network to you, you are going to see your job search shrink in terms of how long it takes you to find your next position. So at the end of these conversations, we ask John, after he's given us all this wonderful feedback, after he's thought about his experience in working together, working with us, Who would you recommend I reach out to next? Now, sometimes John might say, well, you should talk to Marcia over at ABC Company. Great. Would you facilitate that introduction? Sometimes they may need to think about it. So the last piece of importance is to own the follow-up after these conversations. That means if John needs to think about who he might be able to introduce me to, let's be clear about when we're going to follow up so we're not pestering him. Great. When's a good time to follow up with you next week, John? Oh yeah, shoot me a note. Give me a call next Wednesday at 3. Perfect. On the calendar. Now we know, and we can sleep better at night. We're not waiting on John. We have a second conversation. And then one of the most underrated, I don't know if underrated is the right word, probably the most under something that's not done when networking and owning that follow-up is after you've had a conversation with somebody, yes, send them a thank you. Hopefully I'll still do across the country. But worst case scenario, send them an email within 24 hours, just thank them. I'm a big believer of handwritten notes, so do that. But then keep them informed about your job search. They've taken time out of their day to provide you with valuable information, feedback, contacts. The least you can do is keep them informed. Whether you get an interview, how the conversations go. Your job search, because it keeps you top of mind, because something, again, might come across their desk. But it's just the polite thing to do, because again, people have taken interest in you, and they've taken time out of their day to help you. The least you can do is keep them informed. So, less transactional, more strategic. What questions do you all have for me? Text, LinkedIn message, phone call? What's the sequence of initial contact in your opinion? I think that depends on if it's somebody that I know really, really well, that I was super tight with in my career, I might just send them a text message and set up a conversation. Some people I might call, some people I might email. Again, it depends on your relationship for them. You need to lean on your expertise of how they operate. I like it when people text message me. I get way too many emails in a given day. And if you're not a client, shoot me a text message so it doesn't get buried in that. What else we have? Mark, LinkedIn. Oh, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn without a shadow of a doubt. Any other questions? Put them in the chat, and you know, I'll throw my contact info up on the screen so you have it. I haven't posted it. I posted my first TikTok in like 3 weeks yesterday.
Awesome. Thank you. Open up the floor to ask Franklin, Gina, or Melissa any additional questions. Like I said, Franklin, Gina, and Melissa, thank you so much for the opportunity. You guys absolutely crushed this, and you know, these events we put on, you know, specifically, and I think there was a little bit of a theme here from a networking standpoint. You know, let's be resourceful and use the people that are around us, and obviously Franklin, Gina, and Melissa are excited and are ready. If you do have some additional questions that you do want to ask, let's say off camera or outside of this large group setting, they would definitely take that and help you out from that standpoint. So any other final questions? I'll open it up. There's a question for Gina. Gina, would you share the slide for about the EP appearance again? So yes, and just for everyone's reference, Ready Set Exec, if you have joined the meeting here today, we will send out an email sequence. You'll have the actual recording here that we've done throughout the day today, as well as both Franklin, Gina's, and Melissa's information for you to obviously go out there, and if you do want to contact them directly, they do provide those services and help to those executive individuals. So I would say we love hosting these events. It's important for us to kind of give back. These are free events, but also use Franklin, Gina, and Melissa from a standpoint. They do own their own consulting, and if you really want to dive into it, they would be happy to answer any questions that you do have.
Yeah, I just put in the chat that I wrote a 3-part series on executive presence and published that in Authority magazine. I can, if people want to connect on LinkedIn, just say, hey, I saw you in this panel discussion and I'd love to see that 3-part series. I can attach those links to you. I also wrote an article about executive presence recently in Forbes. I put that link in the chat. There's a lot to learn about EP that can really help you up level in interviews.
Awesome. Well, it doesn't look like we have any other questions, and I'm sure you'll get some after we've jumped off here. And like I said, everyone that did join, we are trying to host as many of these events as possible. We have great people like Franklin, Gina, and Melissa that take time out of their day. Obviously, this is a free event and giving back to the candidate side of things. So again, thank you as guests and being part of our panel. We'll continue to grow our network here like we've discussed, and we appreciate your time and taking the opportunity to jump in and hear from these amazing guests. So keep us posted if you follow us on Ready Set Exec. Like I said, we might have Franklin, Gina, and Melissa back at in future events. So again, we appreciate you, and everyone enjoy your day, and take care.
Thank you.
Take care,
See
everyone.
y'all.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, everybody.